Hello and welcome to this week's Damp Show with me, DampSam. It's DampSam Reacts, in fact, the video version of the podcast. So this week, I've done 3 today, actually, 3 reaction videos today, and I weren't going to do another, but I sat on YouTube and this came up. It's called Old House DIY, and it says treating damp, and in the title it says the only effective way to tackle damp in old period properties: lime plaster and allowing the building to, you guessed it, breathe. So we all know that buildings don't have a set of lungs and they don't breathe. But I do understand that this terminology has been crowbarred into the English language in the construction sector by people who need an expression to make it look as if a house is breathing, and that anything that you put on the inside is suffocating it. I can't breathe. So yeah, and it's just not the case. We know that water vapor will go through any materials as a gas, except glass, apparently, and it just, the density of the material sort of directs at which rate it will go through, if you get what I mean. So this guy come up. I've watched the first, what have I watched? First 3 minutes, and as soon as I saw it, I thought I'm gonna have to do a video on this. And listen, I've got nothing against lime plastering. I've done lime plastering when back in 90s, so before a lot of these were even born, or before a lot of these were even considering plastering with lime. You tend to get more experienced people doing it and showing it to the younger generation, who now think that any other plastering is the devil's work and it's all got to be lime. Listen, it's got its place. There's a place for lime plastering, which is English heritage houses where the powers that be say that it's got to be as it was before. And a lot of these people that do lime plastering, they advocate it should be on every older building, and there's reasons why it can't be on all older buildings. One's cost, one's time, one is there's a reason why modern methods have been invented, and the reason is to make it more accessible to everybody, not just the posh elite. So if you're struggling on a budget, there will be a system that you can use to solve your damp, even though a lot of these people that work in lime think that you shouldn't, think that they should be going to your house over a month just to do a little fucking area. But we've got different systems that they can sort it out. You know what I mean? This is why it's quicker to build a house nowadays and replaster it in modern methods than it is to do it in lime methods. And you'll probably see what I mean when we get into watching this, if he's like the lime brigade that comment on my videos. So let's get into it, shall we? Get him out. Here you go, pal. The world's your stage.
Hi, welcome to another episode of Old House DIY. Today we're going to tackle this wall and this back wall. We've got a damp problem here, so we're going to be taking the plaster off, and replastering this wall with lime. and we'll see some of the reasons for why we've got this problem and why lime plaster will help solve that problem. On this back wall, we can already see gypsum plaster, which is starting to fail, and if we tap, we can hear it's not attached.
They look like gypsum finishing plaster, so I'm not sure whether it's backing plaster, but it looks like finishing plaster. And it looks like it's had some kind of damp course, probably sand and cement.
This is another typical sign where we've got damp, where we've got the paint flaking off, and this is where salts are working through, and again we've got the hollow sound.
I think when that's happening, if it is a sand and cement render, it's probably the fact that sand and cement has got airline cracks in, and you get air coming through, and it does tend to blow. But looking at this here, it's either a bad case of black mould, or somebody's painted a bitumen waterproof slurry paint or something like that on it.
The problem here is ground level is actually about here, as we can see through this little window.
So it's a high ground level.
This is always going to be a problem on a house of this age, and the only way to deal with it is to do it the same way as it was done originally when it was built, is with lime, which allow everything to breathe and the moisture to pass through without causing any damage. A lot of these walls back in the 80s had a chemical injected damp proofing where the lower metre of the plaster, the original lime plaster, was hacked off, a series of holes were drilled and chemicals were injected, a black bitumen tanking was applied, and then gypsum skim over the top.
So what I'd say is the reason why that's blown then is because water vapour's probably gone through the wall and formed on inside with a what he calls tanking waterproofing bitumen is different seasons throughout the year, and it's formed. I don't know whether they've put PVA on, but it's obviously not bonded to the bitumen paint or whatever it is, bitumen. Sometimes it can be trowel applied, but it's obviously not bonded to it, and then it's blown away from it. So that for me is what's made it blow.
So I suspect when we take all this plaster off, down here we'll see a series of holes and some horrible black bitumen paint. So let's...
Well, it shouldn't be down there. It should be above the ground level, not down at bottom. So if it's below ground level and he's just pointed to height at ground level, if you're going to put a damp proof course in, it needs to be above the external ground level, not below and below ground. And it does look like it's quite a thick wall, that as well, so you can get issues trying to put a DPC in there anyway. And this is why if you've got a farmhouse like that and you wanted to get a DPC in and the solid walls and the rubble filled, then it's always better to put these damp check rods, dry zone rods, whatever they're called. They're better to put into them types of walls, because you know you've got the right amount of product and it's going to stay in that shape. So if you're trying to inject into that, it's going to go all over. In what used to be called visceral fingering. What are you laughing at? Visceral fingering, and basically that was when they used to put your rod in to hole that's in wall, and then you used to squirt high pressure fluid into wall. And what happened was, if it didn't go straight, if it went all over oil, that was called visceral fingering. I don't know why you're laughing.
Get this plaster off and we'll have a look, see what we can find. There used to be a radiator here. We've already removed that and we've put in, blanked off the plumbing. So the next thing to do is to determine the height of our cut, because we're not going to, this is original line.
If anybody watches Friday Night Dinner, it looks like that bloke, doesn't he? That bloke who comes round who's got Alsatian. What do they call it? Alsatian? No, I don't know. But in with glasses, looks like him. It's just a thought.
Plastering is still sound, so we're leaving that. So we're just going to take the bottom off where they tried to treat it badly, tried to treat the damp badly before. Dado rail runs about here, so we'll mark this level out with a laser level and then we'll start cutting.
So that looks like an internal wall. That's a good idea, using that for marking it.
32 inches.
It's after 1971 now, mate. We're in metric.
There we go. Now let's get the grinder and start cutting.
We'll get going on grinder, that lad. Oh no.
PPE on and make some dust.
Good that he's putting his PPE on. Always put your PPE on, kids. Else you'll be coughing like me later on in life. And this is what you don't do. So, I know it's DIY, but you don't cut a wall like that.
See a layer of the black bitumen
straight away. Pipes, wires, they run upwards.
As you can see, plaster just.
Yeah, so if you see, he's getting his thing behind there. So condensation will form where his yellow chisel is. Go through plaster, water vapour as a gas, and it'll form on there because it's a solid wall if it's cold, and also it's below ground level as well. It's going to make it even denser to travel through, and it'll also be probably cold as well, to create a cold spot as well. There's quite a few different things going off there.
Falls off.
And that sounded like sand cement.
So we've got most of the gypsum and plaster and other nastiness off the walls. This is a prime example of why we don't. This doesn't allow the wall to breathe. This was a piece of wood once upon a time. Now it's just completely rotted out. It's not the only one. There's one there, and there was formerly one here. But that's why we let if the wall could breathe, that wood wouldn't have rotted out.
Not necessarily. It said if the wall could breathe, then that wouldn't have rotted out. I'd probably disagree with that. You know what I mean? If that masonry is wet, if that DPC is not worked, masonry is wet, it's gonna rot anyway. But to be fair, it's on about our old property is. That should be oak that's in there. So it might be 300 years old.
Okay, so we've got to do something about this stuff. There's no way we can put this back, but thankfully we've got a stash of original stone that was lying in next door's garden, which
as you do.
Purloin. Thank you very much. So we've got to cut and fit this. I've been fiddling for a while. I've already cut the top and the back of this one, and this one will fit nicely into here. So we've got our new stones all all bedded in. I've filled in the worst of the cracks. It's a process known as dubbing out.
But if you look here, there's obviously blaming wall plaster for it rotting. What about this down here? You've got this. He's not taking this out. I mean, that does look like oak, and it don't look as if he's taking that out either.
After this is set up, we'll then start with our plaster, which will be scratch coat, second coat, and then finish coat. But I think we've restored the strength back in this corner, and we won't have any more problem with the damp once we've got the lime plaster as opposed to the gypsum.
So he's going to put a scratch coat on.
So
he's going to put a scratch coat on, and then another coat, and then another coat. they don't look that thick walls to be able to get 3 coats on it, but I might be wrong. Hiya, it's DampSam here. I've just come on just to tell you that DampSam.com is now up and running. We've got the Express damp proofing system course designed by me, run by me, done by me. You can buy that. We've got the ultimate guide to black mold and condensation. You can pay what you want for it. And we've also got 3 free ebooks. And also we've got a guide to basement conversions, the ultimate guide to damp proofing, and also the podcasting series. You can get in contact with them and the YouTube membership. Enjoy it rest of your film.
There's the end wall, most of it removed, a little bit more tidying up, a good vacuum, and then some pointing. And then the internal walls where we had the plaster coming off.
So obviously
here,
that looks as though it's been altered. So this brickwork here over on right looks different to this brickwork here. So this is a thing with people, all these heritage and lime people and stuff like this. It's got to be traditional stuff. A lot of these houses down years. If you look at Hampton Court's been extended hundreds and hundreds of times. But at what point, you know what I mean? Like when it was first built, that had original traditional materials. When it were extended, they were more modern. And then when it were extended again, more modern. And then when they were refurbished and had kitchens put in and things like that, a bit more modern, a bit more modern. Where do you stop? Do you mean, should Hampton Court not have any tellies? Should it not have gas fires? Should it not have a kitchen? Should it not, can't have a microwave? How far do you go? Do you know what I mean? I mean, are they going to ask for it all to be took back to original little building that it was when it well, not little, but when it was first built? Is there some chimney stacks up there that are later than others? Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's all history. 10 years ago, that's history. Whatever we put on this house 10 years ago is part of its history, and that's it. And modern products have been invented down years. So it's like, where do you draw a line? Where do you stop it? Do you know what I mean? It's all right saying, yeah, we've got to put all this traditional lime on walls, but are they putting them onto modern bricks? You know what I mean? Traditional lime on modern bricks. So these are questions that they don't like answering. These lime people that say everything's got to be done in traditional lime, they don't like answering. I think that it should just be listed buildings, to be fair. Do you know what I mean? Rest is just progress.
We'll get just lime plastered. Now just starting to rake out the joints, get them ready for repointing.
Oh, all right, so so that wall, I thought that wall was going to be plastered. So this wall's just going to be pointed, which I went to a property, when was it? A month ago, and did a report. They'd got a stone wall. It was a property that was as old as this, but it had been all rendered on outside, and she'd got issues inside. And in the kitchen, at the back of the kitchen, they'd got all plaster had been took off, and it were exposed stonework. Better than that, it was. That's quite. There's a reason why they put plastered lime over that, and that's because all stones just shit and irregular, so they used to plaster it. That'd have been for so they could get it done in like so it won't cost them as much. So they just used to throw up bricks in different sizes and then plaster it. A bit like putting breeze block up today. They don't point breeze block, they just plaster because it's getting plastered over. This guy is wanting it to look traditional. it wouldn't have just been fucking pointed up traditionally. It'd have been plastered over. They started plastering in 12th century, in medieval times in England, wattle and daub and all that. Egyptians plastered 3,000 years ago. I think it's 3,000. In oldest pyramid in the world, which is at Giza. And I know because I did my project on it. Because this is what I mean. People think that we don't know what we're on about, and just because I'm using modern methods and damp proofing and that, they think that we're all thick just because we don't use lime. Well, again, I was using lime before most of your lot. So, not your lot that like videos, them lot that are watching it and it's fucking killing them because I'm going on about lime. So, I've lost my train of thought. I run about pointing, and I run about... Yeah, so this property that I went to and did report, the bottom 3 courses of stone were below ground level all the way around, and the issue with because it were pointed, it were just top half at wall were lovely, all nice and sandstone and look nice. Bottom part were just full of salts, just had salts all over the ground because it were below ground level, and they'd had a source of moisture. I think it was they've got a water butt there, and I think one of the drains were leaking as well. So that's your problem if it's not plastered. If your points that up and you get lateral damp coming through from high ground level, it's saying that it allow water to come through, but you know, if that stone's if stone's really porous and stone will get wet, you'll as well as having salts in the first 3 courses, they were dark because they were wet as well. And rest were like, you know, like a fair colour because they were dry colour. So you've got like a yellowy colour, then a dark orangey colour at the bottom, and that is what'll happen on this dude's house. I'm thinking because it's below ground level, and then also on side there, if that wall runs all the way along the house, and then this wall on left here butts up to it, there's a chance that moisture will come through that brick as well.
In the best YouTube tradition, a software error, i.e. me forgetting to press the record button. So I'm just cleaning out the joints, raking them out, giving them a good vacuum, then
Forgot to fucking put volume button on.
Preparation for pointing.
So he's damping this down to point.
So we get a nice
but
uniform.
What I'd say is when I got told or learnt, when I got learnt and shown how to point back in 80s, and what I know about mortar is that you have to have you spray the water on till it's just starts to till your masonry is that wet that it just starts to run out. So and then you point, and if you don't, it can dry out and crack.
Level layer on the pointing hawk, hold it against the joint, and then using the pointing iron we just scoop it off and pack it into the joint, working our way along.
What does he call it? Pointing iron?
And if needs be, we can go back with a different pointing iron and just tidy
That's a small
it up,
tool, mate.
sure it's
not a pointing iron, it's a fucking small tool. Used in fibrous plastering. Used by plasterers for centuries. And that looks like it's going to be a long job.
We've got it all pointed back. Now time to give it a good beating with the churn brush. This has one, it tidies it up, but two, more importantly, it consolidates the mortar back into the joints because it can be prone to cracking. So give
I'm not having that.
Good beating, not particularly too much brushing.
If that's fucking dried out nearly,
although that can be
you
useful for
beating that's just going to make
just
it bounce out at
beating it.
joint. That's ridiculous. Whoever's fucking showing him that. You shouldn't have to do that when you've pointed, especially if it's lime. If it's lime.
Right, on
pointed,
to the next stage of the plastering now. So first we're going to brush it down with a stiff churn brush and then wet it down to control the suction again. Top tip, on the floor you see I've got some Proplex. It's like black cardboard and it's waterproof.
It's not like black cardboard at all. That's made of plastic.
So
cardboard's made of
brush,
fucking paper.
clean up.
Only similarities we've got is probably black. So you can see it looks as though there were a doorway here. You see, and it's been bricked up. We don't know what year it was bricked up. Or this is where it wall ended, and this bit's been bricked up. It's one or other.
Walls prepared, walls wetted. Now it's time for the first coat. This is what's called the scratch coat. It's 3-to-1 sharp sand lime putty with fibre in it.
What did you just say? 3-to-1 sharp sand and putty with fibre in it. Fibre. He said fibre, didn't he? So these are supposed to be traditional products, and he said it's got fibre in it. Fibre. So in his oceans, there's all these plastics, and they're all going on about plastics and plastic this. When I think about fibre, I'm thinking it's a man-made material. So our traditional is fibre. I thought that you had to put like horsehair and stuff like that in it. Can they not still get horsehair? Can they not get cow hair to put in your mix? It's fibre. What's traditional about fucking fibre? That's what I'll say, you know. Fibre. I get it, because it'll strengthen mix. I get all that. But you're supposed to be fucking traditionalists. Why are you having fibre, which is a man-made fibre and sounds like it's plastic? Why are you putting that in a traditional mix? There you go, you see. One rule for one rule for others. Hiya, DampSam here. Did you know, if you want to watch a full, unedited version of this, if you become a Damp fan, $2.99, which is as much as an expensive cup of coffee up here, you can watch a full, unedited version of this. Nah, let's get back watching this bit, eh? See you in a bit. So I know it's DIY, and I've not done line plastering for years, but whenever I did rendering, I used what were called a comb scratch, and that what is done on there in that like diamond pattern, you just didn't do that. You used a comb scratch. This might be, he might have looked it up, and that's how they might have told him to do it for some reason in a diamond pattern like that. But I thought you just used the comb scratch. Put it that way. I might be wrong. Let me know in comments. So he's already put a bit on.
Line plaster is a 3-coat system. We've already got the scratch coat on. We're now going to put the second coat on.
So this is only a scratch coat. I'm just wondering if I'm wondering why there's leaving a gap from bottom of lime to solid floor. Why is he leaving a gap if lime is be all and end all, and it can breathe? Why ain't he gone down to floor with it? If it's touching floor, can it not breathe? this is what we keep getting told, that you know what I mean. It allows water vapor to pass in and out. Why ain't it gone down to the bottom? Wait, why ain't it gone down to the bottom? Older plasterers would have gone down to the bottom. Your Robert Adams and all them, they'd have gone down to the bottom.
Second coat's very similar mix, 3-to-1 sharp and putty. I've got a little bit of hair in it because this was left from this mix that I kept over last week. But the main difference is the finish. Whereas before when we finished the scratch coat, we scratched it. The second coat we'll trowel off with a wooden trowel, and then when it's slightly hard, we'll trowel it over with a devil trowel, which will still give key, but nowhere near as much. So we're looking for a much smoother finish now. After this will come the 2 finish coats, which are much thinner and a different mix. So we're nearly there.
So he said that it got hair in this coat. So he had fibres in other one. Hey up! A bird there. Fibres in other one, and he's got hair in this one. So I'm wondering if the fibres are stronger than
the next step.
hair.
Now we've got this on, and it's just starting to harden up a little bit, is to devil float. This is effectively a wooden float with 4 screws in it that just protrude a little bit, and it enables us just to scratch up the surface just a little bit.
So why didn't you do that on last then?
Helps consolidate and give the next coat somewhere to stick. So we've done our dubbing out, our scratch coat, and then our float coat. The float coat's gone on for about a week. We've started wetting down.
So each one of them coats that he's put on he's left it a week. He's just said, so he's left a full week. So he's hacked it off, and he's probably took him a week to do alt pointing. He's hacked it off, and then done all his prep. Whether he did his first coat then, and he's waited a week, he's put his next coat on, he's waited another week, and then he's come to do this. And like I said, each of these coats must be going on like paper, because it didn't look that thick, that wall.
And yesterday, wet it down again a couple of times today. Now it's time to get the first.
So he's wet it down, he's wet the wall down twice. So each time that he's putting lime on top of lime, he's got to wet it down each time after a week.
2 finished coats on. So far the mixes have been fairly similar. This time we're using a much finer sand, and we're using a higher percentage of lime putty, about 2-to-1, maybe a bit more, as opposed to the 3-to-1 we used before. This will go on 1 coat today and struck off with a steel trowel to try and get a good finish. We won't necessarily achieve it, but that's where we're aiming for. And then the second coat tomorrow to finish it off again, and that will be the finish coat. So let's get some muck on the walls.
So he's going to put this coat on, and then tomorrow he's going to put another coat on top of that. So the first coat had like a grit sand, sharp sand, he says, not grit sand, sorry. Sharp sand and lime putty. This is a finer sand with lime putty. And then he says he's going to strike it off or something. So it's mixed a bit thinner.
So that's the first.
So that's basically it's at the thickness at wall above, because you can see he's gone onto it.
Top coat set up. It's fairly hard, so that will take the next coat. The next coat is the same mix, just slightly thinner. Again, we'll work.
Right, so when I did lime plastering, because I have done it, how we used to do it was you did them coats before, so you did your thicker coats, but your top coat was a putty lime plaster, but you mixed it with the casting plaster, fine casting plaster, and that gave you your finish. That gave you your smooth finish. and hard finish. I'm tipping that it's going to be like sandpaper. This that is done.
Work this with a hard trowel once it's set off to give us a smooth finish.
Oh my god! Look how how gritty that is. What are you picking at me? Fucking. Oh no, no. Oh. That's like Artex. Surely that it's not supposed to be like that. It can't be. It can't be. What's he doing now? I've never seen that. I've never seen that done before. Look at that on top. Oh, it's gone through me, that. No, not with a fucking trowel. No, that can't be right. Anybody that does lime plastering, that can't be finished that they do it end. You're not telling me all these grade 2 listed buildings that is, it's smooth. We've seen it. That's a mess. That's a mess. Look at that.
And that's
awful.
This project all finished. Bar
that looks a fucking right mess, pal.
Rail and painting it. Next, it's on to the floors. So please, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, like and subscribe.
Well,
and watch out for
I've seen everything
on the floors.
I'm not being funny. If he's got his friends coming round and he's bragging about that, this is lime plaster. Oh yeah, traditional, and yeah, it's just like it was in old days. One, he told us that the top of the wall that he were doing was traditional lime plaster. That weren't as rough as that, was it? No, because that had, like I was telling you before, that will have had casting plaster and lime putty plaster finish, which he's not done. So, and it's took him fucking weeks to do it, and it's only a small area. So you imagine cost for him to come and do that in your house if it were just one wall or two walls, and all these people that's doing lime plastering, and they've put it on my Facebook group and stuff like that when we've been on about prices, saying it only costs as much as normal plastering. It fucking doesn't. It takes time, a lot longer. It takes a lot more money. It takes a lot more prep. It's just faffing about. All right, for heritage buildings, you've got fucking grants that government's paying, or British Heritage or Heritage England or whatever they call them. They're pumping money into it. What they've got off at lottery and stuff like that, and they can spend months and months and months just doing one wall, and if it's not right, rip it off and then do it again. They've got this down at what they call it. Go on. Rather down at I call it Barnsley, like, but Wentworth Woodhouse. So all lottery money's going in, and they're doing it up, and you can go and watch them do it. But there's just trial and error. They've got that much money. They're not on deadlines. They're just doing it up because they're just throwing money at them. And it'll be a great building when it's finished. And it's a lovely building, and it should be saved, but it's just not viable in people's houses. People have got a right to live in damp-free houses, no matter what their budget, and that's comes from the heart. All you callous lime people that aren't bothered about the poorer people. I'm only kidding. So I hope you've enjoyed it. Like I said, there's comments section in there. Stick your comments in there, and I'll have a look at them. And we'll see whether I can answer them. So that's DampSam signing off. I hope you've had a brilliant week, and I hope you have a brilliant rest of the week, because I think this is Wednesday. See you later. Bye bye now.